Okay, so we're going to try and have a discussion about a hot button topic, defund the police. The first thing that I notice, and this is really probably with most issues that we have one group of people jumping up and down saying, defund the police. Yeah, defund them. And they have no idea what they're talking about. And then you have the other side saying, oh, you're going to defund the police, get rid of all the police, see what happens then, no more police stations. And that's the quality of the debate. When neither group of people even knows what we're talking about with the issues or what the people who are proposing these things are saying. So they're not even debating the actual reality of what's trying to be presented. So from what I understand, primarily on the defund the police, just to give a little context and background on this, it's more about people saying they want to reallocate, not take away all police and all police departments, but reallocate the egregious use of funds on things like the war on drugs that has proven to only manifest as more systemic problems. To defund egregious force that is, again, mostly used and exemplified in places of extreme poverty. So, but that's it. We always resort to force first. It's strike first, strike hard, no mercy. We are the Cobra Kai of the planet. So it's like, but again, most people, when they're talking about this, talking about putting some of the funds into positive community building platforms, not to fight fire with fire, but to try and put the fire out. A fire that was likely started on purpose and, the flames of which have been fanned for profits. But so the other side, and that's really what got me going on this, was this relation to the concept of made in America. The other side of an argument says, give police more. They need more resources. And that's something I could actually maybe even get behind myself personally with some articulation. But so the way that applies first to this made in America concept, it's like people say, made in America. We need more products, American made. Then you have to pay Americans to make the products. But nobody wants to pay. It's like all these issues, it's just, I don't know any billionaires personally. The people watching, you don't know any billionaires personally. I don't even know any 9-figure earners. You probably don't even know 9-figure earners, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? But we are the ones suffering, even smaller millionaires. Made in America, then pay Americans. But people that are making the most are the ones who outsource. They don't care about made in America. These CEOs make more money when it isn't made in America, so they don't make it in America, and they're Americans. The only thing that they care about made in America for is as much as it keeps us squabbling and distracted, right? So it's like when some of us demand more as Americans, they call us socialists. Ooh. And it's like there's not maybe an agenda, you wouldn't think, that maybe made in America plays on emotions, that they use patriotism as a ruse to confuse. It's like these robber barons, they pump us with the made in America propaganda and then profit from sending it overseas and then get some of us to defend cannibal capitalism. But without a second thought that there might be an agenda to make sure that the profits continue to flow into their pockets. Again, we're not seeing those profits. But they pit us against each other. So made in America means nothing to them. But the way that applies then to this notion of giving the police more resources, we want better quality police, we have to pay them more, train them more, arm them with empathy, with psychological tools, not just more riot gear and tear gas, right? So we have to pay them more, but who's going to pay? We have to pay them more because the police are made in America. And this is where we are, right? But instead, more funding to the police, if it just means more riot gear, if it just means more tear gas, if it just means grabbing more average Joes off the street, more boots on the ground, it implies the direction. You know, but that's what we do in America. It's like there's the saying that it's the thief who always thinks someone is stealing from him. And it's like America is violent. And we have I guess there's a guilty conscience of the violence that's somewhere in this system. And again, it's like I see people like, oh, America is not racist, you know, da-da-da-da. Okay, so let's just even say that was true. Can you really say that America is not violent? And that gets kind of where I'm going all the way through to the end of this. It's like we can't even have a conversation without people getting emotional, and then it turns into violence. But again, are you going to pay these police officers? Because they're made in America. Are we going to pay for the quality that we need? I was listening to Joe Rogan, and on this one podcast, he was saying something about, I'd never heard this idea before. There's two things he said. This one thing I definitely never heard before, but one was that, you know, we need to make sure that these police officers are in top physical condition, and that so many of them aren't, you know, and so they need like personal training. And if you look at your body, the outward manifestation of your body it shows that if you're overweight big time and you're not in shape, like it shows that you lack discipline in at least two areas of your life, with your diet and with your exercise. And this isn't a judgment. And again, it's the reality of a reflection. It would show that you lack certain discipline, right? And lacking that discipline also leads to a lower self-esteem. Being in that condition will actually make your self-esteem lessened. So the ability to know how to handle yourself in a physical confrontation, altercation, that you know that you can handle yourself because you're in better shape. Like I said, it shows that you lack a discipline. And if you lack discipline as a regular average person, maybe that's okay. I'm not making a judgment on it. I'm just saying that it shows that you lack discipline. And if you lack discipline, but then have a gun on your hip, you know, we might need more Miyagis in the dojo. So, and again, if you're saying with the funding the police, if you're saying that means we need gyms inside of police stations, personal trainers, nutritionists, to get people in better shape and clearer minds. It's like, you know, there's the whole cliche of like cops and donuts, right? And the reality is if that's all you had for breakfast, and there's some donuts, some Dunkin' Donuts, and some coffee, and you find yourself in a situation, you are going to be less equipped to handle that situation. You'll be in more of a fog. And then you add on, okay, I'm not in shape enough to go after a person, or I'm not in shape enough to handle myself personally. My self-esteem is lower. I don't have a clear enough mind. All of these things compile. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And then also, psychological training. Are we going to pay for people to come in and talk about how you can de-escalate a situation? But if you don't have these tools, someone else, the other is scary to you. And so, you reach for your gun first, which is the other thing that Joe was saying that I thought was really badass, is the notion of all of these officers should be trained as like black belts in judo, which is totally makes sense when you kind of start thinking through it. But it's like, we need resources to train these officers, because then it's like, if you're a black belt in judo and you see a guy walking into a 7-Eleven with a knife, you don't have to shoot him 7 or 11 times because you can handle him. It's like, the more well-trained you are, the less likely you are to have to be a bully, to have to shoot someone. And then, of course, judo is like mental chess, so it would help strategize more potentially with the thought process in any given situation. But if instead of that, funding the police means what it's meant for the most part, especially in metropolitan areas, more boots on the ground, more Joes, more riot gear, more SWAT gear, more tear gas, that just doesn't work. It's like, again, Mr. Miyagi, come to us. We train so that we don't have to fight. But if we just only have fear, not knowing the other person, less confidence, we're more likely to kind of just get into that triggered fight or flight situation. And cops aren't supposed to run away, so what else are they going to do, right? But where will the money come from? This gets back to our Made in America notion, right? Where's the money going to come from? Come from you. Come from me. Comes from us, because it's a socialist institution. We pay. So I know that people are against the social institutions, but that's where we're at. But how about instead we talk about defund the military industrial complex, defund the prison industrial complex, that this war on drugs, all of these things are feeding, and then watch where that money goes. Watch where it goes and look at the effects on the ground, and then look where the money goes. But the military industrial complex, it's overinflated. Why don't we focus on building ourselves, giving more, creating more positivity in the world would put less of a target on our back. Building our better character. I mean, we aren't colonizing, are we? And apparently we have people armed to the teeth in their homes that are ready to come out and fight if we were being colonized. So yet, we just dump all of this money into extreme weaponry. And if you look at the Lockheed Martin shareholders and where it goes, then that tells you the whole story, And the military industrial complex, Eisenhower warned against this, and we're still in it. He said, let me see if I can find the quote here. He says, in the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. Together, we must learn how to compose difference, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose. I kind of added that. That other part was from a different section where he first warns against the military-industrial complex, but together we must learn how to compose difference, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose. We're not doing that in the military, and we're not doing it with the police. The police are looking more like the military, and the military isn't doing what Eisenhower is saying. We have to learn to compose our difference, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose, and we just don't do it. In that vein, Eisenhower is Miyagi, and Donald Trump is John Kreese. But again, it's, the money will come from our taxes, right? So why not do like Eisenhower is saying, put that into building our communities? That's our decent purpose. And just quit fighting with each other and fighting these wars that profit only the few. They're not profiting us. They're not profiting us. They are not profiting us. If you've listened this far into this video and watched this, they aren't profiting us. I don't care which side of this issue you're coming from. Just stop for a second and realize that this is not profiting us. Fighting with your friends and your neighbors and your your family, it's not profiting us. It's destroying us, man. I mean, because if we can get to that point, it will make us look more stable. It's like outside, we look so destabilized. We're vulnerable to anyone outside. If like that's the only thing that gets into your head is the notion that, oh, what's the other, what is the neighbor or the, other countries, and that they could come at us. If the enemy is the only thing that gets you going, the enemy sees us as weak. If there is an enemy to the United States, it sees us as weak. Foreign and domestic, right? So I just not try to listen more, try to heal. Because to the rest of the world, when we fight each other like this, we're like the neighbors that are, the neighbor couple that's constantly fighting and tussling. And you just assume that their relationship is weak, ready to fall apart at any given time. That's where we are. That's what's made in America right now. So I'm just hoping that this conversation can be furthered and we can find some common ground. Realize it's not profiting us to be fighting this way. If we locked hands, if we have realized our commonality, that will send a signal. That will send a signal, whether it's America or global, whatever it is. We as common people with a common interest can lock hands and be in good company with one another. That's my piece. Peace.